Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to part 3 of the Healing Adrenal Fatigue Naturally vlog. I'm your host, Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert, and I've helped thousands of women and men all over the world fully overcome their adrenal fatigue, overcome binge and emotional eating, regulate their hormones, digestive systems, and so much more. And of course, we're on this journey together, talking about adrenal fatigue, talking about healing adrenal fatigue naturally, and today we are going to talk about some key things that you can start to do to support good adrenal health and help with regulation of your nervous system. But right before we do that, make sure if you're not subscribed that you click the subscribe button and click the little bell notification so that you can be notified every time a new video drops. You do not want to miss out on this series. It's been fire. I'm getting such a positive response. It's so important that we learn about this and that we understand our bodies and understand the functions of our bodies and that our symptoms are normal and that we know that we're not alone. I'm working on healing adrenal fatigue again right now. If you've missed part 1 and part 2, I'll link them below. Make sure you go and watch those first and then come back to this, because then what I'm going to talk about today is going to make more sense. But make sure that you're subscribed and hit that like button if you like this content, because it lets me know more of what I should create to help you along on your journey. So I'm curious to hear from you if you've been watching the vlog series so far. What are you learning? What are you building awareness with? Last time we talked a lot about, things that make adrenal fatigue worse. And I said, hey, some of this might trigger you to feel resistant. It might just trigger you emotionally to think about having to shift your relationship with exercise or caffeine or some of the other things, depending on how severe your adrenal fatigue is. And I think sometimes when we start to consider some of our habits or the mindset work, and that it's not just about, telling you about a bunch of supplements to take, we can get a little uncomfortable because we've been, conditioned in this quick fix society that you just do a test, take a bunch of supplements, and then it just goes away. And it is not that cut and dry. And if you've tried that approach and it hasn't worked, this is why I'm creating this, to just help guide you on this path and let you know that there is more to it. So I'm glad that you're here. And we're gonna dive into some really cool things today that are gonna assist you on your journey. So I want to actually have today's recommendations be whether for sure you've gotten your hormones tested, you've gotten your cortisol tested, or you haven't, because I think that there are so many things we can do for starters if you're not sure if you have it or not. But if you're tired, you're bloated, you're brain fogged, right? You're craving a lot of salt or sugar and you're having the symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So these are going to be supportive whether you know your numbers or not. And I find a lot of these things to just be really beneficial either way. Just as a side note, I'm not going to get into specific recommendations, with a lot of things that might take more of an individual approach, because it takes an individual approach. And I don't know what medications you're on. I don't want to suggest anything that could interfere with that, because of course that is important for you to go and see your healthcare practitioner or work with someone so you can make sure nothing is interfering. These recommendations are very supportive and very helpful. And what we all need to remember is that each person has a unique set of hormone imbalances, gut issues, or digestive state, relationship with food, mindset, stressors, behaviors. And so these things are going to be helpful. And if you want to go a lot deeper, this is where I'll talk about a couple things you can reach out and we can explore together. But without further ado, let's dive in. Okay. So the first thing that I highly suggest for adrenal fatigue, or if you're suspecting you have any hormone imbalance for that matter, is to actually get your cortisol tested. So there's a few ways that you can do this. I've experienced and witnessed clients and myself go through all of these. So the first thing you can do if you want to is to go to your family doctor and ask to get your morning cortisol tested. Now, here's where the hangup can come in sometimes. I would say about 50 to 60% of my clients, when they went to ask for this, they were met with resistance. They were told it couldn't be done, or that they didn't need it done, and that they weren't in an age range where it would matter. You can have adrenal fatigue at any age. It is not just a certain age. So that is not true. They said it was, you'd have to pay for it or whatever, that they just wouldn't do it. So if you're met with resistance, then this is where we want to maybe try someone else and or be willing to actually just pay for the test yourself if you have the means to do so. Otherwise, go and see your doctor. So one of the reasons why I recommend considering working with someone in this case is because when we look at the cortisol test and we look at the range of testing with the results, like the what is normal range, it's way too big, and we can have these imbalances show up in the normal range, obviously, and outside of it. I see a lot of clients who have cortisol issues in the high end of normal, the low end of normal, and a lot more outside of that range. And so I think it's really important to work with somebody who actually has a bit more of a holistic read and a more integrative read on the results, because these ranges are like 70 years outdated, and they don't specifically own in on a woman or a man. They're very general, and each person is different. So be willing to maybe work with someone who takes a more holistic read, and who's really willing to thoroughly look at this with you and help you along and really take you and your symptoms seriously. If you're told any of the things I just mentioned, all those excuses, then you want to advocate for yourself, and you want to find someone else who is really going to champion for you. So if you want to connect with me and talk about doing this, assessing your adrenal health, your hormone health in general, your thyroid, your sex hormones, your stress hormones, your cortisol test. You want to also, have your digestive health assessed. You want to talk about your relationship with food and overcoming binge, emotional eating, food addiction, binge purge cycle. Maybe there's the weight body battle and the emotional roller coaster of weight gain and weight loss and cravings and all kinds of different things you might be going through. Then there's two things I encourage you to do. The first thing is if you want to connect and have a 30-minute Zoom call together, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, just click the link below to book a 30-minute complimentary body freedom consultation, and I'll prompt you to fill out a form and book your time, and we can connect and talk more about what's going on for you and what the steps look like to do testing, do a full health assessment, and then dive into some work together to really help you shift this and feel a lot of relief from your symptoms. The second option is you can come into the adrenal health package, which includes hormone testing, a few sessions, and the ability for us to connect and really look at what's going on hormonally and start picking away at that. So you can totally book a consultation, and I can talk to you about that there, or you are welcome to email me and we can dive right into the adrenal package. It's info@amberapproved.ca. So all the details are below in the description. However, whoever and whatever route you decide to take, don't take no for an answer, and don't take it's no for an answer if you intuitively feel there is something else going on that is so important. Okay, so that's the first step. If we want to get more specific with the recommendations, we must see results. I cannot stress how important that is. We don't want to be blindly going, oh, well, you have all the symptoms, so you should take these supplements and drink these teas and do these things. Because like I said in video number 1 and last time, some of the recommendations are going to differ with a lower adrenal burnout cortisol reading versus a higher adrenal fatigue reading. And here's one quick example. So licorice tea is one of the things that you will see that some people will recommend if you have adrenal fatigue. However, the problem is if we don't know if your levels are too high or too low, licorice tea is only good if you have low cortisol, and it's also not good though, however, if you have high blood pressure. So this is where we start to get into these specifics, right? And that's why I'm very mindful of the recommendations I make to the general public and to my audience, because it's just, there's so many layers and so much going on, as you can probably already hear me say. So, we need to see the numbers, because if you drink licorice tea and you're in an adrenal fatigue and your cortisol is too high, this is going to overstimulate your system even more. It can make you feel weak, and it doesn't make you feel good. And trust me, I learned the hard way before I really knew what I was doing. So this is where working with somebody, getting the test results properly read, and getting the proper recommendations for where your numbers are at, and taking into consideration any other health issues, symptoms, diagnoses, medications you may be dealing with is very, very, very important, as you all know. Okay, so let's talk about some other things that we can do to help us on our journey to balancing our cortisol levels and making our adrenal glands happy. So I'm going to start with some really basic ones, because this is the thing. If you're not doing these things, or you're off and on with them, it's going to have a negative impact on your adrenal health, and it's going to take it longer for these things to balance. So improve your hydration. If you are not drinking 2 liters of ideally filtered water a day, I don't suggest tap, because there's all kinds of stuff in the tap water, but filtered water, you can get a Santivia, you can get some kind of little stick to put in your water bottle even, but something that is just gonna help you filter your water. You could even add other things like electrolytes to increase the mineral content, which is really important for adrenal health and overall health and well-being. But 2 liters, 68 ounces a day or more. And this is important because if you're not properly hydrated, This is a stressor on the body. Dehydration is a stressor. You can become constipated, brain fog, low energy. These are all potential signs of dehydration. So hydration is really important. So work on that first. Pick some of these simple, like foundational pieces first to help improve your adrenal health. The next thing is sleep. Work on your sleep. If you're having troubles falling asleep, this is a sign of an adrenal imbalance. If you're going to sleep really late, that's going to, again, drag out regulating your cortisol and your hormones. So really making sure that you get into a good sleep hygiene routine. What I suggest, and I suggest this to all my clients, and I say, follow this as closely as you can. You're human though, so you may waver off a bit and come back in, and that's totally okay. So ideally, getting off technology 15 to 30 minutes before bed. That's really important. We want to disconnect because technology is very stimulating. The blue screens, even if you have them really low, they stimulate and essentially signal to the body that it is daytime. And so then you keep producing cortisol to keep you more awake, and you're like, oh, I just want to go to sleep. So what happens when our cortisol is high, especially before bed, because you've been overstimulated, you did caffeine too late, you exercised too late, whatever the thing is or things, your cortisol's up, and we need our cortisol to be lowest in the evening before bedtime so that the body can properly produce melatonin, which is a hormone that helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. So if you're too stimulated before bed, it's going to be hard to do that. So disconnect from technology 15 to 30 minutes before bed. And then, maybe you get into a bit of a self-care practice, get ready for bed, brush your teeth, wash your face, whatever you're doing. But to me, things like meditation, a bit of breath work, reading a few pages of a book that's not stimulating, doing something that's really going to relax and regulate your system is going to help set you up for a better falling asleep and staying asleep. But that sleep hygiene is so important. Optimal hormone regulation time is happening between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. So ideally, if you can get to bed before that most nights, that's really going to help you out. But if you are staying up past 11 p.m. most nights and you're a night owl and you're staying up binge watching TV or whatever it is you're doing, this is a habit that is going to drag out the regulation of your adrenal health. It's just going to take a lot longer because you're literally going against the inner working of your system. Obviously, I'm not saying, don't have your night, but be aware of how that could be sabotaging, a faster track to better energy, mental clarity, and all of these things. Now, these are just my recommendations and tips. You are going to do whatever you want or what you don't want. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to plant seeds and assist you along on the way. Ideally, we want to be getting at least 8 hours of sleep a night. I find most people that have adrenal fatigue want to get like 9 to 10 or take a nap, especially on the weekends or days that you don't work if you can, just because it is going to help your adrenal glands along as well. I'm definitely in a nap phase right now, just because there is still some waking for me in the night, and it is a blood sugar adrenal thing. And I'm going to talk all about that in depth next week in the vlog, which you're not going to want to miss. So again, make sure you subscribe. It's literally blowing my mind, the connection between our blood sugar and our adrenals, and I've really been learning about it this time. And I'm going to spend an entire vlog on it because it's very significant, very multi-layered, very in-depth, and I don't want to do it a disservice by just saying that and that's it. So you'll want to tune in for that. So the next thing is setting tech boundaries. So I kind of touched on it, but 15 to 30 minutes before bed, get off your screens, get outside during the day, like disconnect from your phones. I know a lot of us run online businesses or work on computers and phones. You want to watch TV and unwind in the evening, but be willing to disconnect from some of that phone TV time and start to bring in a bit of a self-care practice that is going to assist you with balancing your nervous system and helping your adrenal glands relax to help you fall asleep and stay asleep, okay? So the next recommendation, and I love these, I'm like, my body just craves this like crazy. And again, this is where it's like, check with your healthcare practitioner if you're on any medications or you have any conditions where these recommendations may not be in alignment. Always first, okay? So minerals are so important. The more of a stress state the body, the more acidic the body gets, the easier it is for us to catch colds and flus and bacteria to thrive. We just don't feel quite as optimal. The body's always trying to get us back into just a slightly alkaline state. And the way that it does this is leaching the minerals, precious minerals, out of our tissues, our bones, our teeth to try and get it slightly alkaline. But all the stress causes us to burn through our minerals more quickly and our B vitamins more quickly. So the B vitamins are the anti-stress and the energy vitamins. And we have precious minerals like magnesium, which is helping with nervous system regulation, sleep, good bowel health, relaxation of the mind, calcium and things like that. I find so many people end up with like a bone density issue because of the high stress in the body and the minerals burning through. And so this is why it's so important for us to add in more electrolytes and minerals and salts and things like that. So I always suggest a good electrolyte powder to put into your water, something that just has really basic ingredients. It should just have the basic electrolytes, things like sodium, calcium, magnesium. Maybe there's some stevia in it, or maybe there's no flavor, and maybe some, lemon or something like that in it, and putting a scoop in your water. It's great. You could also just put a pinch of Celtic salt or pink or gray Himalayan salt into your water and a squeeze of lemon, and you're going to get electrolytes, mineral replenishment. Another thing you could do is you could do a bath and do Epsom salts or sea salts. This is really helpful. Your body will absorb it and it will help you with the mineral replenishment. You can also do magnesium in either a capsule form or a liquid magnesium. I suggest taking it before bedtime. One of my favorite brands is Bioptimizers, and their Magnesium Breakthrough. It has 7 different kinds of magnesium. It's probably the most complex magnesium I've ever seen, and I take one every night about a half an hour before bed, and once I take it, I can start to feel my body that's already relaxed starting to relax even more. It's going to set you up for better sleep. It helps with relaxing the mind, the body, the muscles, helps with better bowel movement. So you can check that out. It's a really great product. And then to me, in taking more magnesium rich foods, so things like leafy greens, nuts, seeds, almonds, sesame seeds, things like that are really rich in magnesium, and that is going to help with mineral replenishment as well. So those are many ways that you can add it into your food, your bath, your water, and supplementation. This is a biggie, okay? If you drink more than a cup of coffee a day, espresso, you're doing a lot of caffeine, I really invite you to start thinking about and considering shifting your routine with caffeine. If you're drinking coffee because it's a ritual, then what you can consider is swapping your coffee for a caffeine-free substitute that tastes like coffee but is not going to keep overstimulating your body. My favorite is called Dandy Blend. It is caffeine-free. It's made from dandelion root and chicory. It's great for the liver, and we need to support good liver health with any kind of hormone regulation. And I'm going to get into liver and hormones and adrenal fatigue in an entirely different vlog, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. But I love it because it tastes like coffee, but there's no caffeine, and it's going to just swap that while you get your hormones balanced. You're going to have way more energy if you pull back on the caffeine or consider fully removing it for a period of time. And I can already hear some of you getting resistant and upset. You're going to do what feels best for you. Depending on the severity of the adrenal issue and how high the cortisol is, some of my clients can go down to 1 cup, but some we do say, hey, like, you're pretty high up with your numbers. Let's wean you off at a pace that feels good for you. And then, they can come back to it after, but a lot of them don't even miss it and prefer the Dandy Blend, or just feel so much more mental clarity, so much more energy. The afternoon energy lulls are gone. The anxiety is gone. So they kind of just stick with the caffeine-free substitutes, but it's completely up to you. That's why I have sub recommendations, and some people can keep doing their 1 cup of coffee because it's just a slight imbalance. So this is where, like I said earlier, it really depends on the severity of your numbers. So this is where getting testing is so huge. I can't stress it enough. Herbal teas. So there's a lot of teas that we can do that are going to support the nervous system and are really good for gentle support for adrenal health. So this is where you may want to swap your caffeine for a nice herbal tea that's actually going to help your body regulate and improve your symptoms. So some of my favorites: chamomile tea, holy basil tea, passion flower tea, rooibos tea, which I actually have a herbal chai rooibos, great for blood sugar and great for regulation of the nervous system and supporting good hormone health, especially for cortisol. Lavender tea. So, you can play around with whatever's easiest for you, but adding in a nervous system calming tea that's going to support good adrenal health and calming and resting and relaxing the body is really, really, really helpful. But you probably want to do it mid-afternoon or, when you're wrapping up your workday, just so it can help you relax and it will help you with your sleep. If you're doing the rooibos chai, you could do that anytime. That's not going to really zen you out, but the other ones you'll probably feel somewhat of a zenning experience. So you want to make sure that you're not needing to have a focus and if you feel relaxed, you don't want to have to work. Consider a temporary shift with your movement routine. I know this is another one that can trigger some people, but because what's below it? Guilt if you miss a workout, fear of weight gain if you don't go. I talked about all of that last week, so go and check out part 2 of the vlog. We've got to deal with any unhealthy relationships with exercise addiction, right? Like that is so important because that is part of what could be fueling your cortisol staying high, your cycle staying irregular, weight gain you don't want, brain fog, low energy, moodiness, all these other things. And so for some of you, you may not have to change it at all. But for some of you that are you're waking up early in the morning, you're going and doing a ton of cardio, you're running, you're ellipticaling, you're HIIT training, and it's really intense, like 5 or 6 days a week, even 4 days a week for some of you. We want to have this conversation. So go get your hormones tested. Let's see how high or low the numbers are, and then we can kind of have that conversation. But to me, things like walking, leisurely bike rides, gentle yoga, restorative yoga, stretching, shorter stuff, like no more than 20 minutes a day. If it's a weight train or a Pilates, a few days a week, and rest days are so important. To get more specific than that would mean us actually connecting and talking about what's going on for you, because we also have to consider your stress levels. And if your stress levels are really high, it's so important for us to consider that while your movement may be helping with mental health or be a release for you, we want to add in other nervous system calming tools to help you release in a way for you to process your stress and emotion while we rest your body. It is inevitable. Your body is going to need rest and less stimulation to balance your adrenals and get that cortisol regulated. I cannot stress this enough. I always say to people, it's going to take as long as it takes depending on what you decide to change and how long it takes for you to change it. Now, some people need to do it slowly, and that's fine, but some people, the faster they change things, the faster they see the results. The more resistant we are, the more fears we have and hesitancies, well, we have to work through that and do the mindset work, right? And I cannot, encourage that enough, and I'm going to touch on that right away. So something to consider. Does that trigger any of you? Do you feel resistant to that? If you do, let me know in the comments, because there is stuff to work on there. It's so important we eat breakfast. Stop skipping breakfast is one of the worst things you can do when you have an adrenal issue. It messes with blood sugar, and blood sugar then messes with your adrenals, and it just fuels a lot of fatigue and brain fog and energy crashes and later day, increased cravings for sugar and carbs, and then that could trigger binge or overeating, and that's not fun. So eat breakfast and make sure all your meals have protein, carbs, fats. Have carbs with your breakfast. That's so important. Berries, apples, pear, put some cinnamon on it. Oatmeal, steel cut oats, a smoothie, but make sure you put avocado, collagen, like a aspartame-free protein powder in there. You need to have protein and fat to regulate what you're having for carbohydrates, but we need carbohydrates for the quicker energy, while the protein and fat are that slower release energy. You need that for your adrenal health and for your blood sugar. And I'm talking about whole food carbs like fruits, vegetables, right? Like sweet potatoes, root veggies, peas, carrots, beets, those kinds of things, not like white bread and things like that. So that is really, 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 really important to help with blood sugar regulation and making sure that you're getting optimal energy and consistent energy through the day, and eating regularly through the day, ideally no more than 3 hours between meals, because the blood sugar is a lot more sensitive when we have adrenal fatigue. And I'm going to talk all about that in a lot more depth next week. Get into a self-care practice. I find meditations, which I'm curious because I've been considering creating a couple meditations for the vlog for like optimal health, optimal adrenal health, like helping regulate your nervous system. So if that is something that you'd be interested in, like I'll make them like 5 or 10 minutes, not very long. Leave a comment below. I want to hear from you because I was considering creating a couple of them to put into this series to just assist you along on your journey. But meditation, any kind of deep breathing or breath work, EFT tapping, which is another thing I was considering creating a video or two on, which is a technique that helps regulate the nervous system, tell your brain to go out of fight or flight back into rest and digest mode, and a lot more is another great tool. Gentle stretching, restorative yoga, naps, resting, like journaling, getting support with whatever stressors you have, seeing someone and talking through like things that have happened that you think are just overwhelming your system. All of these are super powerful tools. Get out in nature, sit outside, go for a walk, get fresh air. All of this will help regulate your nervous system and help your adrenal glands. And that's really what we want to see. Address self-sabotage with food. If you're binge eating, emotionally eating, overeating, binging and purging, it is imperative. Of course, you have to feel ready, but to get support with this. So book that body freedom consultation below so we can connect. I've helped thousands of women heal this and overcome this. I overcame it in a very deep way. So I totally get what you're going through and you're not alone. But this is a massive contributor to all of your hormone issues, your inflammation, your weight gain, your ups and downs with the weight body battle, your body confidence, your mood, your mindset, and so much more. It is amplifying the cortisol issue and the adrenal fatigue. So work on getting support to overcome those behaviors and building a mindful relationship with food, because that is a core stressor that until we address that, like I said last time, you cannot supplement your way out of adrenal fatigue, especially if there are underlying issues like this going on. I'm going to do a whole binge eating, emotional eating, food addiction, section of the vlog. So stay tuned for that. You want to make sure you're subscribed. So that is a key thing. Any kind of like dieting, yo-yo dieting, restricting, extreme eating styles like keto, fasting, low carb, these all will make this imbalance worse. We want to get into mindful eating. We want to get into balanced eating. And so if you're having struggles with that and you have a fear that you're going to gain weight or lose control with food, or certain symptoms are going to come back if you don't restrict and do restrictive diets, let's work on that. That's the mindset work. And that's my whole next point is if you're a people pleaser, if you don't feel good enough, if you are tying your worth up in how much you do, how much you work, how busy you are, but then you slow down. Okay, how many of you do this? You slow down and you try to rest, or you try to simplify and not do a lot, and then you're feeling guilty. You don't feel good enough. You feel really uncomfortable slowing down. And so you avoid that and you just keep busy, you keep overbooked. But that is a massive stressor that keeps fueling this. How many of you are doing that? No shame in the game. I used to do the same thing. Leave a comment below. We want to work on shifting that, because you're worthy no matter how busy you are, or how quiet things are. If you rest or you decide to take a nap, you are just as worthy. But it's a mindset shift, because your ego, that negative voice in the mind, is already saying, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. So you are worthy whether you rest or you're busy. And if you want to heal your adrenal fatigue, we've got to work on the mindset and shift some of these behaviors. It's a pattern I see all the time with my clients. It's way too common. We want to help you clear the guilt, the shame, and the criticism that you're putting on yourself if you slow down, okay? We've got to work on the mindset. The mindset work is key. So if you're people pleasing, you're overbooking your schedule, you're the perfectionist and the all or nothing mentality, we really want to work on those mindsets, because it's your behaviors that are overwhelming your body, and the lack of time for yourself, putting yourself on the back burner at the bottom of the list, that is a huge root cause of adrenal fatigue and most hormone imbalances and the things that I'm talking about on this vlog in general. So Body Freedom Consultation, click the link below so we can connect and talk about all that stuff and work on it. I help my clients with this all the time. I'm a recovered people pleaser mostly. I once in a while fall into it, but I catch myself and shift it pretty fast. And it's a game changer for regulating your hormones and just like feeling in your power and confident, which we're going to have a whole series on confidence and like taking your power back. It's really important. You're all powerful. It's just you need to remember it and like reclaim it for yourself. We want to, last but not least, work on blood sugar regulation. So I'm going to be doing a whole vlog on this next week, and it's going to blow your mind. So you're going to want to stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed and that you're getting the notifications, because this time around with my adrenal fatigue, and I will share this more in depth next week, it's blowing my mind. I knew blood sugar is impacted with this, but this time it's like hypersensitive, and it's like, wow, there's so many significant connections between our blood sugar and our adrenal health and our nervous system. So, to help counter the cravings, to help with, your appetite levels and preventing those massive energy blood sugar crashes that then can lead to overeating, bigger cravings, and binge eating, we really want to be an understanding of the blood sugar hormone connection. And so eating regularly through the day, sitting down to eat mindfully, adding protein, fat, and carbs to your meals. These are all general, but start doing these things. If you're not, they will make a huge difference and help with your cravings. So I'm curious, as we wrap up today, what are your stressors? This is part of your homework. Grab a piece of paper, grab a journal. I want you to write down what's stressing you out in your life. And then I want you to rate each one on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high. These are the worst stressors, these whatever, they're not too bad. And then I want you to start looking at, where can I alleviate stress from my life? And what do I want to start working on so that I can reduce my stress while I learn more about my adrenal health and work on starting to change it? So leave me a comment below. Let me know what's stressing you out. Let me know what you feel blocked with, what you feel resistant to, what you're learning, takeaways. What are you going to try from this list today? Are you going to try a tea? Are you going to try incorporating minerals? Are you going to work on your hydration, your sleep hygiene? Is it the binge eating and you're going to reach out for a consultation and explore support? Let me know below, because I love hearing from you, and it helps me kind of get a feel for what some of you are going through and struggling with, or where you're, have questions, and I want to support you if I can on this journey. So let's go. This is so fun. I'm having so much fun doing this with you all. I hope you've enjoyed this. Come back and watch it again. You're going to take different things away. Like I said earlier, make sure that you're subscribed, hit the notification button so that you get notified every time a new video comes up. You're definitely not going to want to miss next week. It's going to be like jaw drop, mind blowing. And make sure you share this with someone that you know could benefit from it, who is struggling with this, or maybe they've talked about that they're tired all the time and that they just feel like they don't know, but something feels off with their bodies. Share this with them. It could help them. I'm here to help guide you on your journey. Thank you so much for being here with me again today. And I will look forward to sharing a whole new vlog with you all next week. So stay tuned and we'll see you then.